All right, everybody. Good morning. I hope everybody can hear me well. I'm using another mic, so it's not as loud as the one that I usually use. Um, Please let me know if you can hear me accordingly. My name is 12 Gage. Welcome to my channel. I'd like to take a moment and say hello to the people in chat. Carla, Aquarius, Rondi. I hope your day goes smoothly and you don't work too hard. Hopefully you can listen to this or watch on replay. And the one that will come in after the stream starts. I usually play the music for both of my content to kind of give people time to come in and get settled and all that good stuff. Um, you know, today's Sunday, and I've had like 2 3 hour streams in the last probably 4 days or so. I'm kind of tired mentally. It's weird how this wears you out, but I wasn't gonna miss this because this is like my favorite stream of the week. Serenity Sunday. You know, I have a couple things that I have lined up to show you guys. Um, that's understandable, Aquarius. We all have a life outside of YouTube. I get it. Um, I'm going to talk a little bit about self-esteem. I'm going to show you a video from an individual that really has a good insight on that. It's hard to talk on this stuff because I'm used to having a white erase board behind me and diagramming everything and talking as I diagram and all this stuff. I'm not used to sitting down talking about it. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. So that's why I'm choosing some of these other people to do the facilitating for me, and I just comment after they finish or they make a strong point. So I hope you enjoy it otherwise. So let me start off by giving us the daily affirmation. The one that I chose for today says, if I cannot do great things, I can do small things in a great way. And that's what by Dr. Martin Luther King. So many times individuals they want to be great at everything they do, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Um, but we have to understand that, it takes time to get to greatness. It takes time to get that wheel rolling in succession where we can actually be picking up steam and getting where we want to go. I always tell people don't give up before the miracle happens. Don't give up. Don't stop. Don't get frustrated. And kind of like the scrolling message says, I'm a strong and capable person. Those are some positive things all right off the bat that you can tell yourself, look, life's kind of hard. I'm not going to give up on myself. I'm not going to take the easy way out. I'm not going to go backwards. Because believe it or not, when you stop progressing in life and you kind of get stagnant for a little while, that means anything. It's twice as hard to get motivated the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth time around. You know, um, so try to remember that whenever you're having a difficult time maintaining consistency, tell yourself, look, I need to keep going because it's hard to get started if I just allow myself to quit. Even if you even if you do things for 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes. That's progress. That's success. But if you do no minutes, that means that you have that much more time to catch up on because it's not just a day loss, it's double the time because you didn't go plus the time that you're going to do whatever it is that you're trying to progress in life. That's double the work. So try to remember that. Let me play this video right quick and we will discuss what she has to say. Her name is Heidi Pribe and she looks very energetic. So I thought, that person has to have good insight. She has some good energetic vibes coming from her. So she has to have some good insight.
Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. This month on this channel, we are talking about self-esteem, which is a topic that I'm very excited about. And today in particular, we're talking about the relationship between toxic shame and the addiction to self-improvement. Now, if you don't know what I mean when I say the term toxic shame, I do have a video linked in the description of this one that goes over what that term means and how you can recognize it showing up in your own life and your own psychology. But for those of us who are all too familiar with this term, we're going to dive into how struggling with toxic shame can lead us to get overly fixated on personal development. Now, when we talk about personal development, I'm essentially talking about any habit or routine or goals that we set and take on in an attempt to build up our ego. And it's important to note here that ego building is a very normal part of life. When I use the term ego, what I mean is essentially the part of ourselves that is monitoring the relationship we have between our subjective inner world and how we fit in the objective outer world. So, our egos help us secure resources. They help us think about things like, hey, what skills do I have? And what job might I be able to get that allows me to exchange my skills for things like money so that I can develop more security in the world? Or so that I can go pursue more opportunities and open more doors for myself. So, our egos are very important things, and there's nothing wrong with being strategic and thoughtful about which skills we want to develop and what ways we want to work on ourselves so that we can have a more easeful exchange between our inner worlds and our outer world.
Yeah, so basically she's saying that, each of us has this ego that we oftentimes either fight against or we feed in a positive or negative way. So, hello, Justice, welcome. Um, so if we're fighting with an internal battle, which would be the ego versus the id versus the superego, a lot of those things are fixated on how we react to the world and the patterns in which we keep in life. So she's saying that be very mindful of how you talk to yourself, and that's what I've always stressed to you guys is the way you talk to yourself is the way you're going to see your world.
But like anything in life, what is benign under the right circumstances can be absolutely addictive and destructive under the wrong ones. So if we are pursuing self improvement, not because we want to bring more of our authentic self into the world, but because we are wanting to distance ourselves from our authentic selves and put more of our fake selves into the world, because we believe that that's the only version of ourself that would be accepted by the world, this is when we start to develop a toxic relationship with self improvement. Because
Okay, so how many of you guys have ever done that? Whether it be in a relationship or whether it be in a job or friendship or anything like that. And I see a lot of this in a lot of areas that we talk about here on YouTube, where there are people that create a false presentation of who they are on the camera versus off the camera. So most of the time, people create a false persona to be accepted, to be liked, to be able to not be criticized, not be made fun of, or whatever. They go with the status quo. In a relationship, they call this the representative. So have you ever dated somebody and they were awesome in the beginning, and then after 6 weeks, one day this person shows up you've never seen before. They're acting in a way they've never acted before, and the real person has arrived, and the representative has been kicked to the curb. Have you ever done that with somebody?
we are essentially trying to kill off our essence and start living full time as a version of ourselves that leaves out a lot of who we are at our core. We're going to talk about what that looks like as the video goes on. But for now, I also just want to hark back to John Bradshaw, who wrote the incredible book, Healing the Shame That Binds You, and the way that he kind of looks at addiction through the lens of toxic shame. So he says that for the toxically shamed person, anything that temporarily takes away the pain of being oneself can become an addiction. So this can be drugs and alcohol, or it can be online shopping, or it can be romantic obsession or limerence, or it can be planning out goals, habits, routines, and regulating with this idea of an idealized self that we don't have to be ashamed of. If thinking about that is giving us reprieve from this underlying condition of toxic shame that we live with, where we feel as though it's unbearable to be ourselves, this can very easily become an addiction. So, we're going to go over 5 signs that this might be an addiction for you. And then we're going to talk about how to develop a healthier relationship with self improvement.
Very good. Sometimes we get addicted to toxic shame. We get that mindset where we tell ourselves, I'm not good enough. I'm not going to get this job. I don't have the education needed for it. They're gonna, I'm older. I'm to this. I'm to that. There's no way that this is going to happen. This is no way it's going to go down like this. Blah blah blah. All this stuff. We have that negative attachment to our core, and that is the shame that she's talking about. John Bradshaw is a great author. If you want to find a good book to read and you do struggle with shame-based behavior, that is a great book. It's called John Bradshaw, Breaking the Shame That Binds Us. So if you need to, a recourse or something to be able to read, or something that you can use to help you get over the shame and guilt of anything, because she's talking about addiction, but let's look at it in a broad perspective. Addiction is basically how you cope with unhealthy behaviors or unhealthy thinking. So, anything done in excess can control you and destroy you. So that's basically what she's saying.
Because again, it's really wonderful to think about which skills you want to develop and which ways you want to show up in the world that are different from how you're showing up now. But we want to make sure that when we're doing that, we're taking ourselves with us. We're not neglecting and leaving behind major parts of who we are. I want to make clear that we can get addicted either to the actual actions, so to going out and starting new routines or setting new goals and working really hard towards them, or we can get addicted to just thinking about it. So, to sitting at home, reading self improvement blogs, or watching videos on ways in which we would like to change, and then disappearing into a fantasy world where we have already made all of those changes. And finally, we can be proud to be ourselves. So, either the literal actions or fantasizing about the actions can become an addiction. And if you find yourself more of the fantasy persuasion, I do have a video on self-regulating through fantasizing about the future that I'll link in the description of this video, and it's likely going to be a really nice complement to this one. Now, when I picture someone who has toxic shame, thinking about their idealized self, what instantly comes to mind is this kind of image of a person trapped at the bottom of a well, and they're looking upwards at this idealized vision of themselves standing outside of the well in the sunlight, and they're desperately trying to climb up out of the well to get to that person. But the problem is they're so panicked about the fact that they're in the well that they're not really taking the time to understand their surroundings. They're just kind of clambering up the wall as quickly as they can and then continuously falling back down. Or they might actually make it out of the well a few times, but then within a number of weeks, months, or years, somehow find that they have fallen back in. The well itself being a metaphor for our deep shame. And
That is a great example. So, how many times have you guys felt like you've not taken the positive research to want to chase after something or someone, or even to accomplish a goal, and you just dive into it and you go full force, and you, like she said, at times we do obtain it, and we're able to sustain it. But after a while, we get tired and we're not using the positive person that we need to be, and we fall right back into the bottom of the well until we search for something again to give us purpose, whether it be a person, place, or thing.
The only way to get out of that well and to get to the place where you are standing in the sunlight with a sense of pride and dignity is to accept that you first have to internalize that sense of dignity inside of the well. It is the thing that will allow you to climb out and stay out. Because that sense of dignity and that sense that it is okay for me to be inside of this well, it makes sense that I have fallen into it. That kind of belief is the sort of belief that calms our nervous system enough to be able to start actually looking around the well, getting to know it, and understanding the most effective route out, as well as how to avoid falling into it in the future. So, before we talk about how to do that, we're going to quickly go over 5 signs that you might be using self improvement as an addictive way to stay out of the present moment where you experience yourself in a toxically shamed way. The first sign that you might have a toxic or unhealthy relationship to self improvement is that you are very willing to root for the future version of you that you are trying to get to, but you feel nothing but contempt and disgust when you think of the person you are now. So you might feel really good when you're taking steps to change yourself, or when you're imagining yourself taking steps to change yourself, because you're imagining that you're doing that work in service of someone who you actually love, which is your idealized self. But you don't love the self who is doing the work. And the self who is doing the work in the present moment is the only self that exists. Everything, including our visions of the future and memories of the past, are all happening right now. You either love yourself in the moment or you don't love yourself. Those are the only options. So, when we start talking about how to shift into a healthier relationship with self improvement, we're going to talk about how to show love and respect for the person who is doing the improving, rather than only having respect for the idea of ourselves who is done improving.
Does that make sense, guys? Sometimes we're so fixated in the thought of where we're gonna go in life and where we're our future self. Well, I'm gonna be this, I'm gonna be that, I'm gonna be this, and you're so romanticizing the future you, but you have so much disdain and disgust for the present you. It's hard for this person to get there because you don't build yourself up, you're tearing yourself down. It's counterproductive to get to the end goal.
Sign 2 that you might have an unhealthy or toxic relationship with self improvement is that you use self improvement as an excuse to isolate and to hide yourself away from other people. So there's this video that went viral, I think sometime last year, that was pushing this idea that if you're in a rough place, take 6 months, disappear from your life, and come back as a version of yourself who your friends and family won't even recognize. And I remember thinking that is such a toxic relationship to self improvement. Why would you want your friends and family to not recognize you? Those are the people who love you for who you are. If you were to fundamentally change in a way where the people who love you for who you are no longer recognize you, that would probably mean you'd made some pretty negative character changes. But the kind of implicit message behind this video seemed to be people will love you more if you take a big break and come back as a more superficially impressive person. And I think that for a lot of people with toxic shame, this is truly and deeply a belief that they hold. And I was no exception to this for the majority of my life when I lived with toxic shame. Anytime I started feeling an overwhelm of shame, I would use self improvement as an excuse to isolate from the world, get really focused on some objective thing I wanted to improve, like getting fitter or making more money or developing some new skill. And I would kind of disengage from the rest of my life for long periods of time while I was making those improvements, believing that I could only engage with other people and with the world if I were as close to perfect as possible.
This is huge, guys, because There's so many people that either after a breakup or after they lose a job or after, they're struggling with debt or whatever it might be, they always tell other people the first thing that comes out of their mouths is, well, I'm working on myself right now. I can't be engaged in anything that could distract me. Even though that has always been something that has been stated as a healthy coping skill, try to remember that we need to incorporate these new coping skills and practice them to make them part of our normal routine. So just try to remember that, because even after a breakup or a divorce or whatever it might be, there's people that say, "Oh, I'm just working on myself. I can't even have a friend right now. I need to totally just be by myself and just work on me." Well, what are you going to do during the tough times? Who are you going to turn to? Who are you going to talk to? Who are you going to be venting to? Because that's how you're getting rid of the toxicity. But if you don't have anybody around you and you're just isolating, the first sign of freedom that you view as freedom from that, you're going to go back to old behaviors. How many times have you told yourself, let me take a relationship because those are the easiest to talk about? How many times have you ever told yourself, I'm not ever dating that type of person again? I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to worry about me. I'm going to worry about my kids. I'm going to worry about making money, this, that, and the other. So you just dive into that, and then you're going at it full force, and then you get burnt out, and you say, well, you know what, I haven't been out in a while, blah blah blah. You end up going to a club or to a restaurant that has a bar in it or whatever it might be, something that gives you a little excitement, and somebody comes up to you and starts talking to you. You've been starving yourself for attention. You've been starving yourself for all this admiration and all this. And the first person that gives it to you, you attach to it. And you become almost, they become your drug of choice almost. Like, you got to be calling them all the time. You got to be texting. And before long, you're back into that old familiar territory that you were trying so hard to escape from. I hope that makes sense.
And so when I started feeling an overwhelm of shame, I would head into a period of reclusion and self work, believing that I would come back as an acceptable version of myself. Now, not everyone is able to do this because maybe they have long term commitments like full time jobs that they can't simply retreat from for 6 months. So, another version of this, sign number three that you might have an unhealthy relationship to self improvement, is that you are using it to hide in plain sight. So maybe you're not literally retreating for 6 months and not answering your phone calls or showing up to work, but maybe you are refusing to relate to other people as the person that you are. And the only thing you're willing to talk about is the person you are becoming. So when people ask you what's new with you or how you're feeling, the answers you might give are chronically answers about plans you have for the future. You're not staying present with people. You're not talking about what's going on for you today or right now or this week. You're almost frantically trying to get them to not notice there is a present you and to instead try to kind of sell them on this future version of you that you believe is less shameful. And you might get really angry, triggered, or dysregulated if people say anything, even in complete and total innocence, that reminds you that who you are right now is not that future version of you, and that there are literal, tangible differences between the you in reality and the you in your future fantasies, or the you that you are taking steps towards becoming. So, again, this is a way of kind of hiding in plain sight. We're trying to get the people around us to not notice who we actually are and obscure that with a vision of our future selves that we want them to treat us as though we already are. Because, again, that's the only version of ourselves that we think deserves respect and fair treatment. Now, sign number 4 that you might have an unhealthy relationship to self improvement, which very naturally follows steps 2 and 3, is that you go through cycles of extreme work on yourself and then burnout or collapse. And the reason this happens is because if we are self improving in a way that is not bringing our whole self with us. So let's say we decide we're going to get really fit or we're going to earn an extra $100,000 in the next year. And we start gunning for these goals without giving ourselves any sense of relaxation or comfort. And in fact, talking to ourselves quite abusively if those needs come online. So saying things to ourselves like, oh, come on, you're so pathetic.
That's what I was just saying a while ago. If you can't tear yourself down and expect yourself to build up positively. It doesn't work that way. I mean, you have to challenge those toxic thoughts that you have about yourself. And if you don't know what they are while you're in the midst of that mental stronghold, get a piece of paper and get a pen and write down what you're saying to yourself that is not positive. That way you'll at least be able to say, okay, I need to challenge this thought because that's not reality. That's something from the past. That's something from, what I heard somebody say or something like that. Let me see what y'all say. I've been there and it's hard to get past. Yes, it is, but you can do it. I try to always be happy and encouraging because that's how I want people to treat me. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But what happened? Did you get let down? The first person that doesn't reciprocate that ping that you give to them that is positive or encouraging, you give it, and if it just goes and hits the wall and then just kind of slides down, it doesn't come back your way. If you don't have a healthy sense of self-worth, it's going to start to play on you. And eventually you're going to turn on yourself because you're going to ask yourself, okay, the past 3 people were kind to me. This person was a dick. What did they see in me that the other 3 didn't? Did they see and then you start turning on yourself. You start tearing yourself down for no reason at all, so be very careful of that.
Just stop whining and stay on track with your goals, or when we become depressed or lifeless in pursuit of them, telling ourselves that doesn't matter. We'll be happy once we get there. When we are compartmentalizing ourselves like that and denying ourselves things like comfort or rest or joy because we think that people who need those things are pathetic and weak, what we are doing is guaranteeing future burnout because human beings need all of those things. And if we do not intentionally give ourselves those things for long enough, our bodies will eventually revolt to get those needs met in other ways. We will become sick or depressed or angry or anxious beyond measure if we try to go on for long periods of time denying humongous parts of our emotional experience. So again, when we have a healthier relationship to self-improvement, we are bringing our whole selves with us as we're doing the improving. So we are attending to things like our need for rest and comfort and co-regulation while we're making our improvements, which might mean that the improvements happen at a slightly slower pace, but this is akin to climbing up out of that well at a steady but slow pace instead of scaling 3/4 of it really quickly and then falling back down and having to start again and then falling back down, right? So it slows our progress, but it means that we actually make progress. And we're going to talk more about that very soon. The 5th sign that you might have an unhealthy or toxic relationship to self improvement is that one of the main things you are trying to do through self improvement is stay in control of which feelings you are having when. So, I talked about this a little bit in the original video that I made about toxic shame. But when we have toxic shame, essentially, we are terrified of experiencing spontaneous feelings because we believe that there are some feelings it is deeply shameful to have in the first place. We can't possibly leave ourselves open to what is just the natural state of living, which is experiencing a wide range of emotions in a somewhat unexpected way. You can wake up one day, and if you are authentically engaged with your life and not blocked off to any particular feelings, feel everything from rage to lust to joy within the course of a single day. But if you are terrified of experiencing certain feelings, what you might do is become incredibly rigid about your habits and your lifestyle and what you do and don't engage with in the world in order to guarantee that you're getting the hits of dopamine that you need to stay functional, but only in ways that do not bring up shame. So I'm
But think of it like this: when you were growing up, um, think of all the fear mongering that you received and the programming that you received, and that might have went one way or the other. Let's say that you didn't believe it and you didn't live your life like that. You were independent. You were going to make your own thoughts, your own life, your own path. But once, let's take the first example. Let's say that you always heard you can't trust anybody. People are just going to hurt you. This, that, and the other. So you learn to be closed off and not be sociable, not be trusting, not be your authentic self. So that's toxic. But at the same time, if you were over friendly and over giving and over understanding and trusting, and you didn't receive it back, what happened is it started killing that version of you who was the authentic self. And you started developing a layer of protection from the hurt that you received in the world. Because you can receive the hurt, in both of those situations. And you can become the same person. Even if you're a happy go lucky kind of person, the world treats you badly, people treat you badly, you build up the defense mechanism to say, I'm not going to get hurt anymore. So you close off, you're very withdrawn. Even though you're friendly, you still aren't authentic. Because in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, this person's going to hurt me. This person's going to talk about me. This person's going to do this. This person's going to do that. That's where boundaries come in. That's where understanding of giving more to others and being a people pleaser than pleasing yourself first. And I know that sounds selfish, but if you're not good to you, you can't be good to anybody else. And I'll discuss this after the video.
only going to focus on hitting my goals, and I'm not going to leave myself open to, let's say, taking chances on letting people and relationships impact me, because those things are unpredictable. So I'm only going to engage in relationships that feel very low risk and that I know are unlikely to bring up significant feelings of shame. So if we are self improving and doing work on ourselves in a way that is actually making us less open to being impacted by the world around us, we are engaging with self improvement in a toxic way. Real, wholehearted self improvement, where we bring our entire true selves into the goals that we set and the work that we do, makes us more open to the world around us and the people who make it up and all of the spontaneous emotions that are consistently arising as a result of being open to the world as it actually is and as the people we actually are. So, again, healthy self improvement often looks like making ourselves more resilient in the face of shame so that we can stay more open to all areas of our life.
You know, have you ever heard people say, well, I don't care what people think about me. I don't care how they treat me or this, that, and the other. They honestly, there's people that are very self-aware that they can live through that. They can live through that without even flinching. And then there's people that say that out of creating that defense mechanism that's protected them. When they're hurt, they say, well, I don't care what you think about me. I'm good. I'm tough. I'm this. I'm that. But you're saying all that not to convince that person. You're saying that to convince yourself. Almost like a pep talk. So whenever somebody says something hurtful or does something hurtful, it really does hurt you. And those people that say, I don't get hurt easily, I don't care what people say, they've done a lot of work on themselves where they've developed that understanding that, I'm my own person and I don't belong to anybody's thoughts. I don't belong to anybody's perceptions. I don't belong to anybody's criticism. I can love freely. I can love openly. I can love deeply without fearing that somebody's not going to return that because I'm giving it freely. I give that to myself daily. So therefore, if it doesn't come back, I still have it because I give it to myself. Nobody is giving it to me. Now, if you find somebody that's able to give you that in a non toxic way, a non cringe worthy way, man, that's bliss right there. That is blissful living right there. But it's very, very hard to find these days. But there's still people out there that are willing to love unconditionally. And so, what I'm saying is, try not to take what is said to you as the truth. Because even if you have said that to yourself a million times, having somebody confirm it with their thought or their words doesn't make it any more true. You know, it doesn't. Especially with weight comments or with intellect comments or this, that, and the other. Because let's say you're overweight and somebody constantly makes fat jokes or they say all these hurtful things. How many times in your day do you say, "Man, I wish I wasn't this big. Man, I wish I could get on the exercise. Man, I wish I could do that. Man, I wish I could do that." You use that toxicity to stay where you're at. Like she's saying, you got to stay in the here and now. You got to be able to say, today I'm going to try a little bit of exercise. I'm going to try to eat a little healthier. I'm going to try to get up earlier. I'm going to try to read a book. I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to try to do that. And then as you do it, you tell yourself, I did it. You don't set unrealistic goals. You don't set, well, today I'm going to go run 30 miles to get this weight off. That's unrealistic because if you haven't been running, there's no way you can barely get down the block. And I can't do that right now, and I work out all the time. And so you got to be realistic. You got to tell yourself, hey, you know what? I might walk around the block, might walk my dog, might go chill. And, you know, tomorrow, if I feel like it, I'll do it again. Don't force yourself when you're not feeling like it, you know? So, because at that point, you're going to start tearing yourself down again. You're going to say, well, I'm just a quitter. I'm just this and that and the other. Well, if you're not going to work out on that day, then read a book. Teach yourself how to cook something different. Clean the house. Reorganize your closet. Whatever it is that you can do to stay active. Even though you're not walking around the block, you're still being active. Don't sit there and tear yourself down. Does that make sense, guys? I hope it does. Let's continue the video.
Rather than trying to control the conditions of our life so that we don't experience shame. This is the core difference between healthy and unhealthy self improvement. Are we becoming more shame resilient so that we can actually tolerate shame, ergo, take many more risks in the world and expose ourselves to deeper relationships and experiences of life? Or are we trying to narrow our world so that we are keeping shame out? And now we're going to transition into briefly talking about how you can heal your relationship with self improvement so that you're coming at it from a more holistic and effective place. So, my personal belief is that if you have toxic shame, what you need to be focusing on is not self esteem, because for you, self esteem is likely to look more like a dissociative fantasy. And what you need to focus on first and foremost is developing dignity. Dignity is the art of respecting all parts of ourselves, even the parts of ourselves that we wish were different. So, refusing to kick ourselves off our own teams if there's something happening within us that we wish were not happening, and instead being willing to stay present and on the page with ourselves, the way a loving parent would stay on the page with their child who is struggling in some way. When we have dignity, it means we have the strength to face whatever pain is coming up for us in the present moment and stay on our own team. When we are able to stay present with the things that feel very shameful in our lives, what happens is we're able to focus on and attune to our lives as they exist right now, which helps us find real solutions to what we are struggling with. Solutions that are not dissociative and unrealistic, but ones that are actually going to help us gain some.
Let me explain what dissociative is if you don't understand what that means. It means that um, you when stress is so overwhelming, you blink out, so to speak, and your reality is no longer. It's like you can see the kid yelling, the dog barking, the a tornado coming, and you're still right there, just numb. And you're not even in your own body, so to speak, or your own mind. You're just like, okay, when this calms down, then I can feel safe enough to come back into the room. That's a dissociative trait, and most people create that as a superpower in their lives. Whenever life is too much, they blink out. Like, have you ever been having a conversation with somebody and it's an intense one, and you have to go like, hey, are you listening? And they got kind of come back into the room. They've dissociated. They've checked out on you. They've checked out on you.
Foothold to take steps out of the problems that we've found ourselves stuck in life. Dignity is your inner parent saying to your inner child, it's okay that you have ended up where you have ended up in life. It makes sense based on what has happened to you that you have ended up here. So let's look at where we're at together with compassion, and let's figure out what we need to change as a team so that we can end up somewhere better, where we feel less defended and more open to the world around us. I am going to stay present with you, and I'm going to help you get there. I am not going to abuse you along the way. So, how do we start developing that sense of dignity?
That's great. That's great advice. I'm going to stop it right there because I'm kind of nervous about copyright stuff right now. I can finish it up. Um, you know, it's difficult whenever you start this. Whenever you start feeling like you need to work on yourself and you're tired of doing the same thing over and over and over, getting the same result, you learn to take the small steps that people suggest because it's not easy. So therefore, you may have done it 100 times and you've been successful twice, and not very long. And like she said, you may have fell down in that well, and you've been there since. So it's hard to get motivated again. Um, I suggest that if you have a picture of you whenever you were at your happiest in your life, whether it be 12 years old, 11 years old, 6 years old, 5 years old, you pull that bad boy out. And whenever you start to feel like you want to beat yourself up, or you start telling yourself that you're not good enough, or you're not smart enough, or this is the best you'll ever be in life, and this and that and the other, pull that picture out and look at that version of you that you need to protect. Just what she was saying. And tell yourself, I'm not going to give up on you. I'm going to be here to protect you. Because you would not beat up on a small child. And essentially, that's what you're doing whenever you start beating up on yourself. When you start telling yourself all these negative things, you start believing them. Those of you with animals, You wouldn't kick your dog or your cat when you're not feeling good. You wouldn't. You wouldn't yell at them, and they're loving on you, and you're like, "Get off me!" This and that, and push them away. You wouldn't. So if you don't treat them like that, why would you treat yourself like that? Well, I'm just saying the last time you were really happy, the last time that you can remember actually being happy and calm and able to, well, you wouldn't hurt them. None of you would hurt your children. Hopefully, none of you would hurt your children, whether they're grown or whether they're not. You can tell yourself, look, I love them enough and I made them into good people. I don't need to give up on myself because I can still make myself do this on a daily basis for me. It's not an easy process. It's easy to give up on you. It's easy to fake it till you make it. It's easy to say, I can present a wonderful person to the world while inside I'm crumbling. While inside I have no hope. While inside I have no love. While inside I have no faith. I have none of that. It's easy to tell the world what they want to hear. Just like I posted a picture on my community tab today, and I hope you go look at it because that's the world in which we live in. And it's hard to be in the middle of that because you're trying to get out of that and you're trying to be the best version of you that you can become. And most of the time, there's somebody there willing to tear you down. But you can't allow it. You cannot allow it. You have to be the person that tells yourself, okay, I don't feel like it today, but I'm going to do it anyways. Don't give yourself excuses to quit. Don't give yourself reasons why this isn't going to be good enough for you. Because, like that lady just said, you can become addicted to the negative toxicity just as you can to the positive. So you have to keep it balanced. You start having an argument with your significant other, or you start having disagreements, it's okay to listen to them because they're telling you how they perceive the situation. They're not telling you how they perceive what's wrong with you. They're telling you how you're reacting to the situation and how they see it and how they feel. Listen. Don't personalize it. I believe that's what part of our problem as a society today is our feelings are right there on our sleeve. We believe that everything that's said to us, positive or negative, eventually is going to be hurting us. So if I'm positive to you, you believe, okay, when's he going to turn on me? When's he going to start saying the bad things about me or to me? If I'm negative toward you, of course you're going to be like, well, how much more of this can I take? I hope this makes sense. I hope that you've enjoyed this because it's not easy to change, but you are worth it. Don't fake it till you make it because by faking something, that means you're not grounding the real thing. You're just acting as if, you're just playing a role. You don't want to play a role. You want to be the authentic person that needs to be present for your life. There's nothing better. There's not a better feeling in the world to finally feel like you are okay for yourself. You're good enough for you. No matter what the world tells you, no matter what you hear in these stupid chat rooms, no matter what a creator may say to you and about your thoughts and all this stuff, you know what? They're not God. They're not your God. Hold true to you. And if it's so damning that you can't be in there because you enjoyed them before and now you hurt and you have anxiety and this type of stuff being in there, then do yourself a favor. Empower yourself and get out of those rooms. Stop watching. I had to stop watching TV a long time ago because I get triggered easily by a lot of negativity. I have PTSD towards certain things. So, you know, I have to be careful what I do. I got to keep myself safe, like I tell you guys. You got to keep yourself safe. You can't allow yourself to be somebody else's victim. You can't. Don't get it wrong. I do watch TV every now and then, but not like I used to. I usually watch comedies or I watch those cartoons with adult humor or whatever. You know what I mean? I love comedy because you know what? That keeps me laughing. It keeps me humble. It keeps me in a mindset where, you know what? The world's not that serious. It's really not. You're going through a crisis. You're going through a crisis. Don't just laugh it off. Deal with it as much as you can and ask for support when you're not strong. Because we all need somebody to be our rock sometimes. You know? And don't be silent. Don't be scared to hold your thoughts and your feelings in. If you can't talk to somebody who you need to talk to about these things, find a support person that you can vent to get these thoughts out so that you're not carrying them around all day long. Or go start a journal. And if you're scared somebody's going to read it, start an online journal. They're free. You can keep them private. You can just write until you're calm. It's what I did for 18 years. It works. Because the more that you hold these emotions in, it's eventually going to make you sick. It's going to give you health problems. It's going to tear you down where all you want to do is lay in bed and sleep. Or you're not going to sleep very well. You know? I'm only passing on suggestions that I know work. We can't turn to food because, after a while, if we're not active, we're going to start feeling bad about ourselves because all we're doing is eating and we're gaining weight. So there's a double whammy. We turn to drugs or alcohol or partners or whatever. It just becomes counterproductive than dealing with the problem. Anybody want to come up on panel and talk? You don't have to show your face. Aquarius, you want to come vent? Carla? Heather, if you're still in here? Yeah, being outside can really help. Get some sunshine, get some vitamin D. Sometimes you got to unplug from your devices. I enjoy the heck out of you guys being in chat. But if you got to unplug for a couple days or a week or a month, and then you'll be back, hey, I understand it. I understand, Carla. Hopefully, we'll get you up here one day, We'll keep trying until we get you up here. But I want you to understand that, like that water in the background behind my little box on here. That's tranquility. That's tranquility. And if you've ever been beneath the water and you're looking up at the water like that, it is so peaceful. You're swimming under the water, whether it be in a pool, whether it be in the ocean, whether it be in a lake. It's so peaceful. That's the feeling that you need, that hopefully one day that you can get to, that you can maintain that feeling, because it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful feeling to be able to be one with yourself and to protect yourself without having to get angry, without having to get violent, without having to give the silent treatment. That's one of my pet peeves. I can't stand people that give me the silent treatment. It's like, come on, I know something's wrong. Talk to me. I'm not going to get aggressive with you. Talk to me. Tell me what's going on. Silent treatment just drives me insane. Can't stand it. And if you're around people that are toxic or not good for you, replace them. Replace them. It's okay to have them in the background, but they don't need to be your number ones. Replace them with positive people who you want, who you see yourself being at that moment, the present. Yeah, that's not cool either. What that door do to you? You know, yeah, we all have, we all have, we all have those coping skills that we've developed from somewhere. Try to challenge those and be different, you know? Yeah, food and more food. I get you. I get you. But at one point in your life, you got to take control of that, you know, if you want to be healthy. It's not easy either. Get with Rondi. She can hook you up with a membership where she works at. That's good, Rondi. You know, it's just tragic how we want to be so loving as a person, but yet we are so awful to ourselves. You know, not everybody. There are people that are healthy. I'm not trying to be one dimensional here. I'm just saying, you know, just try. Just try. You can do it. Just like Rondi just said, you can do it. And keep coming back here. I mean, hopefully the positivity will rub off on you. I mean, I like to believe that I'm a positive person no matter what people say, you know. Um, always say, be the miracle that you want to see in the world today. Be the kindness that you want to be in the world today. Be the loving person that you want to be in the world today. Be the example, the positive example you want to see in your world today. And the more that you are that, the more you believe that, the more you become that. It's kind of like if you want to be a millionaire, are you going to hang around broke people all the time? No. You're going to stay broke. You want to be a millionaire, you hang around millionaires. You learn what millionaires do to bank millions of dollars. You want to be in a loving relationship, you hang around loving people. It takes 6 weeks to really know somebody. Their representative is usually around for 6 weeks. And then you see the real them. Relationships are hard, but the right person makes it so worth it. I hold on to that no matter how many failed relationships I've gone through. I still hold on to that. I'm glad you have your dog, Heather. I really am. I can tell how much you love them. I can tell. And those of you that have animals, I hope that you love your animals a lot and they get you through the tough times. Because believe it or not, they're a human being just like that you can eventually love with your heart like that. You know? You have to bring that wall down. Quit being scared to live. Quit hiding out from the world. And most definitely, don't let YouTube be your reality. Don't. I mean, I know a lot of you get on here for escapes, but don't let it become your world. These cases are going to be here next week, next year, and there's going to be new ones. You can always go watch the replay when you're feeling good about yourself. And if you start to be triggered and start feeling bad about yourself, then turn it off. You know, there's some people that I was watching one last night and I was thinking, why do people always yell as they're presenting something on here? I hope I'm not that loud. It got me to thinking. I was like, I wonder if I sound like I'm yelling because I don't want to sound like I'm yelling at you guys. I want to sound calm and peaceful like I hope I am right now. But I turned on like three of them, and all of them, they were just like talking like this. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, good God. How could somebody sit there and listen to that? But people do, day in, day out. But that's them, that's them. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope that you enjoy your day and you start off your week, that you start off your week feeling successful, productive. And I hope that those positive thoughts for the days, I hope you really think about them and you incorporate them into your day. Kind of like this little thought right here. I am strong and capable person. That's not just a pep talk. That means that you encourage yourself until you believe that, where nobody can change your mind about that. And it's not in a conceited way, it's a positive, affirmative way. And don't let anybody on these platforms or in these chat rooms treat you like crap. You don't have to fight anybody. Just leave. Just leave. Go back another time. And if that person's a regular, tell the creator, hey, this person, send them an email. Say, hey, this person is aggressive to me. Is there some way you can address that? And if they don't answer you or they don't want to address it, then don't go back. Watch their replays where you don't have to hear all that mess. The same here. I hope that we never get in chat where people don't want to feel safe in here and quit coming. Because that's what I strive for every live is I want people to feel safe. You know, that puppy's barking, he hears my voice. So he's not a puppy, he's old. He's like 13 years old, I think. 13, 14 years old. Little bitty thing, and he like has a heart of a lion. I could love on that dog, but he just doesn't trust me enough to let me close. You too, Rondi. You too. Well, guys, I'm about to end it because I got to get to the gym myself, or I'm not gonna go, and I'm just gonna, be lazy all day, and I can't do that after this hour. After this hour of being positive, I can't just sit here and not go do something that I need to do. But you guys have a wonderful Sunday. Have a wonderful Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because you don't know how many more of these days you have left. So just live it. with hope and faith. Thank y'all so much for being here. I'll see y'all soon. Maestro, cue the music.
When it's time to go, say so, and I'll know when it's time to go. When it's time to leave, don't grieve for me. When it's time to leave, just wait.